Question: what happens when hard water, wear and tear, chemical cleaners, and rust come together? The answer is a faucet that looks like this: a sink basin with scales and stains, a sink drain that's leaking water, and a broken flexible hose. In other words, a completely unusable kitchen sink system. But the real question is, how do we fix this? But first, let's talk about possible ways to deal with the problem, which I like to call options. And I break it down for you into what's likely your two major concerns: estimated cost and degree of difficulty. The first way is to simply replace your entire kitchen sink system, which of course should still be functional and of decent quality. Here, you hire a professional plumber to do it for you. So option 1 is what I like to call as high cost and easy or boring. Obviously, the first item is the stainless kitchen sink itself. How low or high the price is will depend on a number of factors, such as the size, if single or dual basin, the thickness of the steel, also known as the grade, and the brand. This can range from 1,500 pesos to 8,000 pesos. In my opinion, anything less, I would be questioning the quality, and anything more, I already consider as a luxury or novelty item. So let me complete this list with the rest of the items you'll most likely need. A decent stainless steel faucet that you could get from 200 pesos to 1,500 pesos. A basket strainer, or in layman's terms, a sink drain, from 200 pesos to 800 pesos per set. A flexible hose for 150 to 300 pesos. You'll also be needing some miscellaneous items such as tile cement, tile grout, sandpaper, and other small items. I estimate this from 200 to 600 pesos. And since you'll be hiring a plumber for this option, the estimated labor cost can range from 3,000 to 6,000 pesos. And this really depends on the size and the complexity of the job. Thus, the grand total estimate for option 1 is anywhere from 5,250 to 17,200. You probably didn't expect it would cost this much, right? Now, do I have your attention? If you have the budget, then this could be the solution for you. However, if you cannot afford a professional, we do have option 2, medium cost and tiring. And that is to simply take out the labor from the equation and do everything yourself. While this option shaves off a considerable amount from the grand total, I must admit that this could be quite daunting, especially if you have very little knowledge about removing an entire kitchen sink system and installing a new one. And this brings us to option 3, low cost and awesome. Because in this approach, we become more strategic. You simply take a closer inspection on which parts of the kitchen sink system can still be salvaged or restored, and which should be replaced. This not only brings the grand total cost further down, but also makes the job so much more manageable and even makes you feel awesome about what you could do yourself. For instance, in this video, I show you how to remove the impossible stains from the kitchen sink itself and restore it like new, and the rest of the job requires us to only replace the faucet, one sink drain, and one flexible hose. In essence, in option 3, we only fix what's broken. Oh, and even if you were going for option 1, I still recommend that you watch until the end of the video so that at the very least, you may gain more understanding on what's involved and not get ripped off by so-called professionals. Also, at the end of the video, I will reveal to you the actual cost of this repair, and it's gonna be interesting. So sit back, relax, and watch how we are gonna do it. Hey there, this is HanDIYman 007, and if we're just meeting for the first time, hello! And my passion is building, fixing, and improving all sorts of stuff at home for my family, and sharing with you what I have learned from experience and from others. We begin our kitchen sink restoration with replacing the faucet, and to remove it, we have to go under the sink. First, we detach the broken flexible hose, which we will also be replacing later. Then, we unscrew the plastic flange nut from below so we can pull out the faucet from above. Ideally, this should be easy to do with your bare hands, but if you want to see the step-by-step process, especially if you encounter stubborn flexible hoses and super tight flange or lock nuts and a cramped space to work in, I show you tips and tricks from my how to remove and install kitchen sink faucet video. You'll find the link in the info card on the upper right corner or in the description below. At first glance, you might say, this doesn't look that bad, until we get to the spout. What an ugly looking hole. What's worse, water squirts through it whenever we turn on the faucet. So today, we're gonna replace and upgrade it with this kitchen sink pillar from HanDIYman. I'm not too sure if I pronounced it right. It's a bit pricier than your standard kitchen sink faucet, but still within our cost estimate range. It does have 2 water spray options, comes with a 2-year warranty, and available replacement parts, which is always great. But before we install the new faucet, we need to partially restore the sink around the area where the faucet will be. It's so much easier to restore this now without a faucet obstructing our motions. So how do we restore the sink? We are going to use 120 grit sandpaper. This is super rough, so it's my hope that it's enough to scrape away the white scales and chemical stains from the stainless sink. We are going to wet sand with ordinary soap and water. We fold our sheet of sandpaper into 4 sections so it's easier to hold. By the way, the main advantage of wet sanding is the fact that it produces less dust, or in this case, metal shavings, gives longer life to our sandpaper, and allows us to obtain a smoother surface compared with dry sanding. In this stage, the goal is to restore and clean all the sink surface in the immediate vicinity of the faucet hole. So this means a part of the sink and the backsplash. After wet sanding for a while, we wipe the surfaces with a damp cloth. And will you look at that? That portion of the sink and the backsplash are starting to give off a luster once again. Now, we move up to a 400 grit sandpaper. It's a bit finer than our 120 grit. You see, we needed the roughness of the 120 grit to remove the hard water and chemical stains, but it also produced swirl marks on the sink. So we need this finer 400 grit sandpaper to remove or at least to reduce those swirl marks to make the surface even shinier. You might be wondering why we need to limit our wet sanding around the faucet hole for now. Why not wet sand the entire sink while we're at it? It's because it's easier to wash off the metal shavings than wiping it. But we cannot do that right now because we still don't have a working faucet, and more importantly, we have yet to fix the leaking left sink drain. Otherwise, we will be causing a watery mess under the sink. For now, it's time to unpack and install our new kitchen sink pillar faucet. First, we unscrew this plastic flange nut, which we will use to hold and lock the faucet from underneath, and remove 1 silicone gasket. 1 gasket on top and 1 at the bottom. Aside from making the hole waterproof, the gaskets also prevent the faucet from sliding too much. Then, we screw in the plastic flange nut and hand tighten. Let's move back on top to check our work. Swing and rotate the arm, test the handle, wiggle the base. If it feels too loose, tighten the flange nut below a bit more. Only hand tighten and never use tools or you might break the plastic nut. The second part we're gonna fix is the left water drain of our dual sink, and we need to wet sand the area around the hole. Pay particular attention to the indentation or recess around the hole. This needs to be ultra smooth because it is where the rubber gasket of our new drain will go. Any rust or grain or any uneven surface should be removed in order to create a flat, watertight seal later. Down below, it's time to remove the drain housing by loosening the lock nut beneath it and unscrewing the housing. Yuck! This housing really needs to go. If your sink has an overfilled drain line like this, we need to reroute the drain hose that used to connect to the housing we just removed. Good thing that this tailpiece has a nib where we can connect the drain hose. We remove the cap using a flathead screwdriver and test if the drain hose fits. And it fits like a glove. Good. Now, let's bring out our new heavy-duty basket strainer set, aka sink drain set. This washer Dyson model has a price tag of 407 pesos and likewise comes with a 2-year warranty. And this assembly belongs to this part of the entire drain system. Okay, so let's unpack this and check our parts. We have a stainless strainer basket, stainless strainer, lock nut and washer, and when we separate this housing from its stainless strainer, inside is a rubber gasket which we set around the recess of the basin hole with the strainer on top of it. Everything else we install underneath. In order to create more clearance, we temporarily detach the overfilled drain hose and remove the tailpiece. This allows us to screw in the new housing in a clockwise motion. We need to hand tighten as much as we can so that the rubber gasket on top will be pressed firmly between the strainer and the sinkhole recess. This ensures that everything is watertight, so water will only go through the drain and not through the seams of the sinkhole. Because the new tailpiece that came with the new set doesn't have a nib to connect the overfill hose, I'm going to use this current tailpiece but use the new washer. So let's screw this tailpiece to the drain housing clockwise, ending with the nib pointing towards the overfill hose. Then, we raise the bottle trap assembly until it connects snugly with the tailpiece and lock into position with the bottom slip nut. Remember to also tighten the top slip nut, which I forgot to show in this video. Finally, we reconnect the overfill hose back to the tailpiece nib. Perfect. The next step is to connect our water inlet valve to our new faucet. For that, we need a new flexible hose. Two things to inspect when buying a flexible hose. One, both ends should have a compression washer. This way, you don't need to wrap Teflon tape around the connections just to form a watertight seal. And two, make sure what you get is long enough to connect your water inlet and your faucet. Again, no need to use tools here, only hand tighten. The tighter you go, the harder the compression washer is pressed inside, forming a better watertight seal. Then, we connect the other end to the faucet base. Now, let's do a careful visual inspection on all the parts we have just installed, just to make sure we didn't forget anything. And everything looks good. So now, we do an actual test by opening our water inlet valve. Let's turn on our brand new faucet in 3, 2, 1. Awesome! Let's swing this to the left to test our left sink drain. And inspect underneath to check for leaks. Our sink drain housing and the seams, dry. Slip nuts, dry. Water inlet, dry. Flexible hose to faucet, dry. Bottle trap and other fittings of the entire drain system, dry. Fantastic! Let's go back up and test our faucet spray modes. Very nice. Now that our water supply and drain systems are all working, we can continue with the rest of our sink restoration and make this look new. Like before, we start off with our 120 grit sandpaper and soapy water. And look at that! The first washing is already showing a lot of promise. I'm just going to work on the right basin so that after everything has been said and done, you can see for yourself the difference between the left basin and this right basin. In the meantime, let me give you a quick rundown of the actual cost it took to fix and restore this entire kitchen sink system. One stainless steel kitchen sink pillar faucet for 990 pesos. One stainless steel sink drain set for 407 pesos. One flexible hose for 210 pesos. And 10 sheets of sandpaper at 12.75 each, which makes a total of 127 pesos and 50 cents. This gives us a total of 1,734 pesos and 50 cents. I'd say not too bad for actually restoring a dual basin kitchen sink system. After you finish this video, go back to the beginning where I presented you the estimated cost for options 1, 2, and 3. You'd be surprised how much we have saved. And look at how this right side of the sink has come back to life. It's a far cry from the left side. They are literally worlds apart. Here, let me give you a close-up. All that's left to do is finish wet sanding the entire left side of the sink, even the countertop. In the meantime, this is HanDIYman 007, leaving you with a little bit of inspiration saying that you can do this.